Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Al Womble, and I am here today sitting in for my good friend Rob Johnson, who normally you would be seeing at this time. I'm with New Frontier Action Fund, and I'll remind all of you, please make sure you visit us at newfrontieractionfund.com. Please make your donations so we can continue our important work with not only helping to educate and inform people in the world of politics, but also how people can affect their personal finances. And today I'm really excited because I get to introduce a man who's been on the cover for GQ 5 different times, has been on the cover of Jet magazine, my good friend Stoy Hall, who is now going to be joining us to bring in this conversation.
Oh, welcome that introduction. I wish it was, GQ and Jet. That'd been great. Al, I appreciate it. And, it's Rob's birthday. He didn't show up on the show today, and it's his birthday, but we'll be roasting him tonight. I cannot wait for that event.
Yes, that's going to be, I am looking forward to be on that program. Definitely. So you got a guest that you brought on with us today?
I do got a guest, Brian Morrow, CPA, business partner of mine. We actually office together. Rob and I have been talking a lot about budgeting and money. And as everyone knows, tax season, it's coming. So we wanted to get a CPA on, kind of go through some of the do's and don'ts and a little tips and tricks for individuals, and then next week hit upon the business owners and really get everyone to understand what taxes are about and why CPAs are so busy at this time of the year.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. Let's jump into it, man.
All right. Well, hey everyone, there's Brian. Yes, he is on the beat. Well, he wishes he was, just like the rest of us. But Brian's my partner. We've been partners for almost 2 years now. We do it on the wealth side, the CPA side, and commercial real estate, which we've talked about on the show. Today, we really wanted to know from you, Brian, kind of what your process is like during tax season. And for individuals, what are some do's and don'ts specifically for them? And then we'll have some questions as you go through.
Excellent. Well, thanks guys for having me on here. For our tax season and for our process for all of our clients and even talking with new clients is to make it as seamless and as less frustrating for everyone as humanly possible. So we don't have the old days of sitting down and watching somebody prepare your taxes. That's not what we do here. We want to take that worry away, take that stress away, and really make it as streamlined as possible for everybody. So as a new client, we want to first understand what y'all have going on in your tax return. And, a lot of people have more going on than they think, but, for the most part, getting individuals stuff in, going over last year's taxes, going over what they expect, and going over, any last minute adjustments that we can make. It's just kind of part of our onboarding process, if you will, and getting them comfortable with, tax season, how it will flow. And then we try to have a pretty quick turnaround time with our tax returns. And obviously we have some questions, and if there's any savings or anything that we can do during tax time, that we'll definitely address those with our clients.
What would you say is the number one thing you see from an individual side that people forget to do or don't take advantage of?
The number one thing that I don't see, especially in clients that are probably, in their lower 30s, upper 20s type thing, is taking advantage of a 401k. That's probably the single biggest. I don't see a lot of that on people's W-2s any longer like you used to. And I think that's a real point that people that they miss. And don't take advantage of, one of the huge perks is that your employer usually matches what you put in up to a certain point. So for clients that are looking for, for clients that work in companies that are looking for tax deductions, my first and foremost go-to is, are you maxing out your 401k with your employer? Because they're going to match you 50%. So that's essentially a 50% gain, day one. And then it's usually invested in the backside, and you can grow your money from there. But, retirement, whether they're a business owner or a individual, that is my number one strategy for for tax savings because it's not a wasteful thing. But it's just something I don't see nowadays as much as I used to. And I try to educate every client that comes in, max that thing out, let your employer help you fund your retirement. We encourage that here, obviously, with our employees, but yeah, you just don't really see that anymore. But that's probably my number one. There are a couple other things that we can do, but that's probably my number one go-to.
What's your opinion? I know we talk about this all the time in the office, and Rob and I have hit upon this a little bit, is what is your opinion on getting a huge return back on taxes as opposed to getting one that's maybe zero or close to zero?
First thing I ask is, did you want the government to hold your money all year tax-free, interest-free? So they held it, they took a loan from you and they kind of did whatever they do up there. And then they gave it back to you and you missed out on, any sort of return. So I'm not an advocate of getting a huge refund every single year. In fact, if a client gets a huge refund and it's, their income's pretty consistent year to year, I usually say, hey, you want to tone down those withholdings and have some more money in your pocket on a monthly basis. Obviously, everybody loves a huge refund, and that's, we're here to get them the maximum back that we can. But at the same time, let's try to lessen that refund, put more money in your pocket throughout the year in which you can do other things, get caught up on bills or make some wise investments, anything along those lines. But, getting a huge refund, that's cool, but that just means that the government held it interest-free for the whole year.
And I'm glad you brought that piece up of having more income during the month. We talked about 3 weeks ago about credit and being able to pay your bills and pay down debt. And I had mentioned that changing your W-2 withholdings, that way you have more cash available on a month-to-month basis. That's exactly what Brian's talking about right now, is if you don't, you're going to have a bigger return later, but now your cash flow month-to-month isn't as high. How would they go upon doing that and changing those withholdings? I know it varies employer to employer, but could you give like a generic way that they can change those tomorrow, next month, next pay period?
The easiest and slickest way is to, call your HR and see how many, when you filled out your W-9, how many exemptions did you put on there? Did you put 5? Did you put 6? And then cutting that back. I would also advise you to, talk with your current CPA on who's preparing it and just how far you can go. Because you don't want to get into an owing situation, although I do owe them every single year because I refuse to give them more money than they need throughout the year. But if you want to avoid an owing situation, I would just talk with your CPA. It should be a very quick, easy conversation. And that way they can give you some solid advice on how to, get less of a refund and have more money throughout the year for which you can use.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I love that piece of it. That's probably why we're partners. Al, from the outside and not being inside Black Mammoth, what are some questions that you would have?
So when I take a look at, this past year, it's been one that's been absolutely tumultuous for individuals. And some individuals are finding themselves in a situation where they're either facing unemployment and that sort of thing. When we talk about this tax return, if you're facing unemployment due to the COVID, what are you recommending that people do with that? What do you recommend people doing with their 401k if they're facing that situation where they're going to be running into unemployment?
Your 401k can be a tool. A lot of it depends on your employer. Whether or not they will, allow you to take a short-term loan to help you get through this period, which you'll have to pay back eventually. It's usually over like 2 years though. So every employer's got, a little bit different, but in theory, you can take a loan from a 401k and then pay it back. And you can also, under the new COVID rules, you can take a withdrawal from your 401k and then spread out that income over the next 3 years to lessen that tax hit that's going to come with withdrawing it. And then I believe it's also penalty free, so that'll lessen it as well. So they've put some stuff in this year with regarding their 401ks. Obviously that's your retirement kitty though. So if we can avoid it, we should avoid it at all costs because we want to save for the future. But I get it. These are different times, and push comes to shove, we may need a little extra help throughout the year. And there's a couple different ways that you can do that, but you do have to discuss that with your employer, because not all employers allow that withdrawal. Not all employers will allow you to take it and leave. So they do have to approve it. And usually you have to kind of submit kind of a request to have your own money. That's just the rules of their 401k. Those are very customary rules.
Yeah, because like I said, like I said, this is an extraordinarily times, and individuals who even found themselves in the most secure of, jobs, finally feeling that they were very financially secure, are suddenly facing situations where, like, gosh, my job is going away. I don't know when the next one's coming about because we're in such a strange job market. What do I do in those particular circumstances? And also, if you are getting a large return and you're facing possible unemployment, what are your suggestions on how to really make that money work best for you if you're going to be getting that big return and you're facing unemployment?
I mean, I would just put it into a bank account and leave it. I wouldn't do any big expenditures with it on the front end. Bills are going to come. You're going to have some low periods, and it'd be nice to have a kitty set aside where you can pull from to grab that to, pay the car payment and not go into any defaults at all. So probably be my best advice for anybody that has pulled money out that thinks, it's going to be a tough time coming up. Just limit your expenditures. Don't do any big purchases just because you have a big sum of cash, and try to limit those things that are out of the ordinary and maybe not exactly needed right now. And then when life returns to normal, we can go back to, having those other things.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd piggyback that. We talked a lot about the budget and when you receive something, right? So that question's hard to answer without looking at everyone's situation, but look at your situation and prepare yourself for that. If you know that, hey, I'm behind on bills and you need to keep the lights on, then yeah, use that refund to let's get the lights on. But don't go get tattoos. Don't go buy the new page. Don't get a new car. Don't do any of that, right? Don't do those extra things because the unknown is happening. You don't know where you're going to be at. So definitely make sure that you're taking care of the essentials, the survivable things, and then let's build a plan, save, and then prosper next year. And then, yes, then you can get those J's, that tattoo, that car, whatever you're looking for in that regard. So I know we're getting to that 20-minute mark that we usually have for the lunch meeting that we have for this. Any final thoughts, Brian, on an individual side? Again, next week will be business owner, and I'm sure that'll get really detailed and into the weeds a little bit. But anything from an individual side that people should be doing, should be thinking about, or why they should use a CPA, or what they can do if they don't want to use a CPA?
I guess my biggest thing would be to use a CPA. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased with that, but your taxes are the single biggest expense relative to your income you have per year. Tax brackets are 25% or 30% of most people's income. There's not probably a single expense that's bigger relative to your income than taxes. So do yourself a favor, have somebody, a professional, put them together that you trust. H&R Block is good, but they don't have a lot of experience. So I've seen a lot of people miss things. And then also you should get some advice with that. So I always advise my clients, take something to Goodwill every single year. That'll get us a write-off. It'll get us a good size write-off. You'd be surprised. Also Iowa, they offer a tuition and textbook credit. Make sure you ask how much you get, because that's a tax credit. So that's cold hard cash. It's not just a deduction. So, and those are the types of ideas and advice that someone at H&R Block is probably not going to give you, because they're being paid $15 or $20 an hour to sit there and process returns, and they just don't care. So do yourself a favor. go with somebody that you trust, go with somebody that does this year round for a living and is going to give you some thoughts and suggestions on how to make your tax situation better, because we don't need to give them any more money than they absolutely deserve. And you want that in your pocket to better your life.
I love it. And I'm just going to say, hey, yep, do what Brian says. Listen to your CPA. That's all that matters to me. Just listen to CPA and let them do their job. If you want to reach out and find us, you can go to brianmaurer.com for his website. You can go to Black Mammoth. You can call me, obviously, at 515-420-0120. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. You'll be able to find us, and we'll be able to help you out as much as we can. Obviously, you can get a hold of Al, get a hold of Rob, anyone at New Frontier. We're here for you. And we look forward to next week. Al, what events do you have coming down the pipe?
So we've got some really wonderful events that are going to be coming up here with New Frontier Action. And if you enjoyed today's show, I remind people, go to newfrontieraction.com and make sure you donate. We have got coming up on the 25th, a really wonderful event with Michael Blake from the DNC. And I encourage everybody to be a part of this program. It's going to be tremendous. On February 3rd, we're going to be having a program with Ro Khanna, talking about, how technologies and education in those areas can help fight off poverty. But most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, we're going to be hosting the roast of the good Reverend Rob Johnson, and I beg you to show up to this one. This is going to be a premier event. You do not want to miss this, and see all of Rob's friends, giving him a little ribbing for everything he's done and not done throughout the year. He's a fantastic man, folks, and we all love him. But tonight's our night to maybe poke a little fun at the big man. So please join us tonight. That is at 7 o'clock. Make sure you look forward at newfrontieraction.com, and I hope to see all of you there.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.